Yes.
Okay. Good morning to you. Welcome to the New Thought and World Religion class. I'm Greg Lee. Today I'm talking about practical techniques in maintaining Christ consciousness. But also, this one's going to be a lot more, I'll say, fair than the other ones that I've done. A lot more. I'm going to try for a lot more community engagement and back and forth and questions and things, because there's no way for me to know what techniques will work for you in maintaining your own level of consciousness, because I'm not in it. All I can do is share 100,000 techniques, and the 100,000 of them first is the one that works for you, and it's the one that you discover, because you're going to be the one that discovers what you have to do to take control, to take charge of your own mindset, of your own being. And so kind of what I wanted to do today was I made a handout that has some ideas. That's really all that's on there are some ideas that can spark something within the right person that needs to read it. I put pins and things out there because this is a two-part series, and my intention was, if something that is on these pages resonates with you in some way that causes you to want to take notes or maybe try to implement it in the upcoming week, then next week when we talk again, we can maybe refine them, find out what worked or what didn't work, and talk about how the actual implementation and integration of the intention to maintain a state of grace mentally, physically, and spiritually for the longest duration that you can, right? Like, that's always our goal, is to maintain our frequency of consciousness. I call it Christ consciousness. So we can talk a little bit about what Christ consciousness is. That concept itself is fairly standard across a lot of doctrines and disciplines, and you can define it yourself however works for you. Now, it would really, to put simply, I would say that Jesus the Christ, whether he be a man, a symbol, a god, anything, dwelled ever present in a state of love and bliss and zen for all beings for all time. That's where there was no agitation. Well, there's anger. All right, we're going to talk about all of this. So Christ consciousness is where you love all things all the time, right? And it just feels good. There is no agitation or being upset, I guess. And that's also not true. Well, define Christ consciousness for yourself, I would say. It's bliss, right? It's where stuff is going well because you're effortlessly flowing with the zone. You're being in the zone. That's another good way to put it. I mean, we can sit here and try to define Christ consciousness for you for the entire time, and I'll hit some of you and not all of you, and so hit yourself. Yes? Okay. Now, the point of this talk was actual practical techniques. Because a lot of the feedback I got from my other talks and things when I was going into different levels of frequency and vibration, when I was going into the concepts of reality and past, present, future, the power of the now, all of that stuff. A lot of people were like, great, but what does it matter? What does it mean? How do I integrate, and how can I actually use this stuff? Was a lot of people what a lot of people asked me. And so my intention for this one was to talk about how we can do it and what it looks like. I can tell a little bit of stories about myself. I don't always feel this way, right? And it has been a long journey of decades of knowledge seeking, and practice and opportunities to grow and learn. And I'm not here to give you like my backstory, but it is available for you by talking to me anytime you want. But the point is, when you can live there all the time, every moment of every day, you can feel good. Because you're able to create your own reality, and I laid a little bit of the framework down in the other talks of how the actual mechanisms by which you create your reality, and the handout touches on those a little bit too. But the underlying foundation and the underlying premise of what we're talking about today is that since you can create your own reality, you can affect your own consciousness, and you can take control of your own consciousness through the expenditure and application of energy in a desired direction to maintain the love, the bliss, the Christ consciousness frequency of thought. And carry that through all day, every day, all the time with everyone that you met. And so what the symbol would be Christ lived there all the time. He never fell out of Christ consciousness because it was, or he did before he was 30. I mean, we don't know. But the thing of it is, Christ lived there all the time, and so by trying to use that as an exemplar of the concepts that I'm talking about, what would Jesus do is kind of what popular tropes society has put upon that. We're not going to get into Jesus as a historical figure, Jesus as an amalgamation of a lot of different religious thoughts and concepts, because that is neither here nor there. It doesn't matter. What matters is what you integrate and pull into your own experience and are able to use to further your own spiritual growth and spiritual goals. Okay. So, I don't really have this time a speech, a thing. I'm not going on an agenda. So, what? I guess I will start, but I'm happy to take audience participation. We can take 10 minutes and read some of these quotes. I like them. I like a lot of the concepts that are in there, and I could even do that for posterity, or other people can read them. I know Paul does a lot of like passing around the room, and that's pretty fun too. Other people reading things, and then we comment on them. I left room for you to comment too, because like whatever you feel, I want to know. Whatever you think, I want to know. The practical techniques thing is where literally, you can say, Greg, I got really upset at this last week. What does it mean? We can discuss actual real life examples from your own life, and I'll share one. So Rachel's been gone for this last week, and not 5 hours before I left for the airport to pick her up, Olivia, my 3-year-old, cut my 2-year-old's hair down to spikiness. Like she just about scraped the scalp. I did not maintain Christ consciousness.
Welcome to parenthood.
And so an aside, parenthood has been one of the most incredible teachers of how to maintain Christ consciousness and heaven on earth in the midst of unbelievably dynamic chaos. But I fell out, I know the trick is seeing it, is noticing what's happening. Because if you can't see it, like on page 4, 2, 3, and 4, on page 3 and 4, seeing it is the way that you can direct your own experience. That if you can't tell, you can't come back. And so I'm not ashamed to admit that I raised my voice at my children. I yelled at Olivia because I was surprised and frustrated and shocked and very disruptive. So my consciousness generally hums along on a very even keel. These personal stories and things, Rachel tells me humanizes me when I tell them, because it's tough to describe. But I'm very, very balanced, very centered. I know where my baseline is, and I try to maintain it as best I can in the midst of anything. And this is your goal too. This is what you want for your own experiences and your own reality, is to maintain the level of heaven on earth. Like what the 4 agreements would tell you is, if you're able to follow the 4 agreements, you can live in heaven. You can live in heaven in the midst of heaven, and that's unbelievably true. Experientially, that's true in my own life. Things can be falling apart. The Thea song. Even when it all falls apart, I will still have love in my heart. And that's the goal. That's the goal of everyone. Okay? Where was I going? Oh yes, yelled at Olivia. What I am proud of and what I am practiced in, and the point, if you are not Jesus the Christ, and you are not just a steady hum at Christ consciousness all the time, if you're like a human or something like me, you will lose it. Okay. Yeah, you will lose it. You will fall. I say fall. It's obviously not the right word, but we're gonna use it anyway. And stumble. You will stumble. You will have your trials and not always be perfect. The goal is to come back to baseline as fast as possible. Right? If you get upset, if you get angry, if you get sad, you fall into greed or lust or anger or baser emotions, more of the materialistic emotions, more of the generative emotions, the mental, physical, spirit. Like you're falling, literally your consciousness is falling into slower and denser states of being, right? Your goal is to be light and to live and to float, essentially, on the surface of time, directing your consciousness to create a reality that you want to live in, rather than surrendering control to some external force or some external being or some external energy or message. And so it took, so the techniques, yes, practical techniques. After I was upset with Olivia, I have a particular, breath is the main one. I mean, your breath, gaining control and noticing your breath is going to be, in all the religious talks and all the religious everything for so many thousands of years, focus on breath. And that's, I'm not going into why and all the different ones. It's pay attention to your breath. And I do a particular grounding, centering kind of ritual when I recognize that I am very far from where I want to be, and I'm telling myself lies. Now, I don't do this often, but when I do tell myself lies, you have to come back and you can't believe them, because if you believe them, then you integrate them and they become part of your new reality, part of your reality moving forward. And so I will take 3 to 5 breaths. There's no right or wrong except right for you. You'll know what's right for you and you'll know what's wrong for you, but just one or two of those for me has been extremely effective. Or 5. It doesn't matter how far. It depends on how far away I am, I guess. But each one, I can feel at this point. It's very much drilled into my psyche, drilled into my consciousness through the use of repetition, intention, and building unconscious competence in the techniques that work for me to maintain my level of consciousness. I will and do both, not anymore, but in order to get it drilled and so effective for me, I visualized myself I visualize myself rising in consciousness and rising in the frequency of my vibrational energy and actually directing my own conscious experience towards Christ consciousness, towards Source, towards God, towards the All. You say up, but in this case, up is actually towards the center of existence, and like the peak of a cone, where it's when viewed from the top down. So, I would love to hear another technique. Yes, that other people use.
Is it on? Okay. Well, so I really try to look at everyone as an aspect of God. And children, I have 2 kids, but they're grown now. And children are a very special aspect of God because they're really here to teach me. And that's what I learned, and very soon they're going to be, 10 years old, 12 years old, or whatever, and they really do teach you, as you were saying.
Oh, when do you hit the teenager here?
Well, yes. Yeah. But anyway, that's what I always try to do. Very special aspect of God, and that's why it was so hard for me to get angry at my children, because I knew they were here in a special way to teach me.
Reminding yourself of that when they smear peanut butter in the carpet the
Well,
third time is...
Yeah, it becomes difficult, no doubt.
But that's the point. That's the work.
Yes.
Is you get the challenge of the peanut butter in the carpet and on the hair in order to teach yourself how to get back to the baseline, because that's the reality and the challenges that your higher self has even created for you.
Yes. I want to say one more thing. On page 4, I really liked what you said here because it gave me a different way to look at things. At the very top of page 4, ego tells a false narrative when convincing you that trusting is hard, when telling you that letting go is more difficult than choosing to carry a self-imposed burden. Wow, that really is good. Surrendering is, by its very nature, easy. Yeah, that's true. It's you don't look at it like, well, let's see, should I trust or should I carry this burden? Yeah.
Right. I mean, that kind of goes, the ego stuff goes hand in hand with forgiveness. So the other technique, I am doing my very absolute best to not assume and place any of you in any box, right? So I would love that you are all Christ consciousness all the time, because I know you're expressions of God. But also, as we talk to each other, we'll be all like, yeah, oh, I get angry sometimes. These are the realities that we live in this realm. And one of the greatest ways to rise, to come back to baseline, is to forgive. And that would be one. That's if all you do is forgive everyone that ever has wronged you. I'd love to meet that person. That's something. Tell me what life is like for you if you live in a state of forgiveness. And I try to, and I do. There's very little that you can do that will upset or cause me to hold a grudge. Now, I'm definitely flawed and can be made upset, but with practice and over time, I have gotten very, I like the word agile, at dodging the energetic burdens that others would try to place upon you, like very, very much Celestine prophecy too, where people can and will try to hijack your energy, hijack your connection to Source and all of these things from which all the energy flows, and try to pump them up, fill their popped balloon with the energy that you're putting off. Being able to, and this all comes back to being able to see it. Because if you can't tell that you have fallen from grace, you can't get back there. And the practice the practice, the everyday practice is seeing it all the time. You don't get to take a break, because when you take a break, that's when you're no longer directing your own conscious experience.
Okay, yeah, so just, you were asking for other ways of doing it.
Yeah.
So and this is kind of related to forgiveness too. First, I always will do what you first said. Is if I feel dysregulated, I can feel it physically.
Yeah.
So then I'll just do the breathing. And what I'm also aware of is that I have thoughts that are generating some emotional. My memory of what you were talking about, your experience with it, was my son had pushed my daughter down this really shallow staircase that was carpeted and stuff, and she was not injured at all. But she came back and pushed him up against, she's a tough little, she pushed him up against the wall, even though he was bigger than me. But she was older and she knew how to wrestle, and she pushed him up against the wall and kneed him right in the nuts. And I just lost it. I mean, I just lost it. And the first thing is just to breathe, but then, and this gets to the forgiveness, or maybe even can, before you need to, which is the non-judgmental stance. It's like, there's, who am I to judge?
Impartiality.
It's judgment, and once you realize, it's an opinion, her experience was different than my experience. And, in conversations with God, where, he talks about that even Hitler, was just a part of
The grander scheme.
the grander scheme of the things that we see as so abhorrent, was just all part of the greater evolution,
Fractalization,
yeah. And so we have our own personal choices about where we want to go with it, but judgment largely is just not in our, it doesn't serve us at all.
Right, and so in the now, where the now is the only place that you can actually exert change, right? Because that's the past is gone and the future is here. So the now is where we do that. So when you experience the children fighting in the now, you have the opportunity only right then to apply weight to the experience that unfolded before your eyes, to the experience that you have created in front of you. And other people are doing it, but you're there, and so it's yours. So like you have right then the opportunity to apply weight to it, really churn your emotions up and carry that with you, or you let it pass through you, over you, and don't carry it with you. And so the better you are at essentially dodging. That was an opportunity for you to get angry. That was an opportunity for you to, a temptation, right? A temptation to get more base, to get more materialistic, to get more, we're done with those. So, and by choosing to not allow it to affect your consciousness. Now it does immediately, but by choosing to not carry it with you and say, keep anything negative about my little girl or my little boy, as he pushed her and then she hit him, like all of the violence, when you let it go, now it's almost a positive anecdote in your life, because it's a story rather than a burden.
earlier you had asked about techniques for regaining your equilibrium after an upset.
Yeah.
And what I've learned over observing this an awful lot, I think there's a common thread in all upsets, not just with me, but with everybody.
Could you hold it up like, yeah.
I'm sorry, can you hear me better now?
Perfect.
All right. There's a common thread in all upsets for all of us, and it's always a conflict or a difference between what you want and what you see.
Yeah.
All of them,
Wanting,
all
yeah.
upsets are the same. So I get the opportunity to look at my vision and realize that you may do whatever, and I get upset at it. That means you're bad. And I get to realize where the upset comes from and have the opportunity to immediately move it up and down the emotional scale.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
That conflict is what creates reality. We live on the circumference of time, and as time expands, it creates the friction, and that's what we're seeing. So if there was never any conflict, if there was never any difference between what you want to see and what you see, there would be nothing.
Yeah, Abraham calls it contrast.
Sure. Yep.
So the main point that was sticking in my head, is I have certain reasons why these principles don't necessarily work for me psychologically, and I've had to create my own system in order to reach that point, especially in prayer and meditation. And one thing I've learned that negative connotation doesn't necessarily exist. One thing, a lot of people throw out nihilism and demoralize it for some of its negative principles. But some of the more positive principles are the negative places you reach are inevitable. We all reach those negative moments, and instead of looking at them with negative connotation, it's better to try to find a positive light inside of them. And inside of therapy, I would express this as trying to exercise your negative emotions in a more positive manner so they're not pent up. So you're releasing those chemicals, right? So you're freeing your mind from it so you can find a more centered place in prayer.
Process. Yeah.
Right.
I really like that. The positivity, right? Light and positivity compared to negative. Positivity and light are defined by the darkness, because if there was only light, there would be nothing. If there was only darkness, there would be nothing. But when you have a negative experience like everyone comes to, the only way you can have an extremely positive experience is by knowing how much more positive it is than something that is negative. Like, you have to define it in context with something else.
What I got to wondering about is, after 5 days home alone with your kids, if that haircutting episode wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, and you lost it. And like just what you're saying, becoming aware of when you're not in a joyful place. It's like all day long, it's, up and down, and maybe you don't go way down or way up, but it's still, you're up and down.
The baseline fluctuates, cycles.
Yeah.
One of these is definitely cycle breaking. On page 2 at the bottom. So your baseline's going to fluctuate all day, every day, and because we're physical beings, it's going to fluctuate even more when you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're hungry, when you've been go all day, when you hate your work or whatever, or when you love what you're doing, when you're gardening and it's great. So your experience will. Yeah. So the point is, after 5 days with my kids and no wife and everything, I was stretched pretty thin.
Yeah.
And I was fragile. I felt good all the time, but then all of the experience that you have, all of the experiences that you have in your life are energetic opportunities that are presented to you. The bigger the experience, the greater the energy. It's like dropping a pebble or a boulder in a lake. The bigger splash has the potential to change more of your consciousness frequency.
Abraham Hicks says that don't worry if you have resistance, it'll get bigger. And then you'll be able to spot it.
You get more challenges the more challenges you overcome. Yeah, because that's how you grow. That's how you get better, is by doing bigger and better things. So on page 2, I really liked the mantra. A lot of techniques, historical, religious, everything have used mantras. That's been a thing, and Buddhist things, and really just about every way that people try to take control of their own consciousness relies on mantras. They say, like, repeat these affirmations, repeat these things. Here's your stuff. There's a lot of words for mantras, so don't just like get hung up on what label you use. And the mantras you use to, as I said, amplify or oppose your cycles, but you can't apply it correctly until you can see your cycles, right? Because you don't. If you're trying to put positive energy or negative energy, and it can be fruitless if you're not following the wave. Trying to fight against the things is great. Obviously, we want when we're down and falling or sliding or whatever however we want to define it. It's always great to redirect. It sometimes may not be possible for you. I mean, these cycles are things that exist for you. They do. A down week will happen. I mean, because of the nature of our experience. You can have a down day. You can have a down second. You can have a down year. These are it's cycles within cycles within cycles that we experience, and by recognizing them when they occur, you can use your mantras, you can use your affirmations to affect the baseline. So as you get great opportunities as you pass your, what you would say, your baseline, to exert a little bit extra energy. You want to raise the peaks, you want to raise the valleys, to fill in the valleys a little bit. So right when it's at the darkest, and you have the option. You always have your option when you are just like really kicking yourself when you're down. You have the option to keep digging. You can. You can continue to tell yourself lies. You can. No one's gonna. You're not gonna stop yourself unless you stop yourself. And the earlier that you stop yourself, the better it's going to be for you. And by practicing this as a part of a daily, hourly, minutely, secondly practice, like live your life in this way, you'll find you can stop it before it even begins. You're not even going to tell yourself the lies because you didn't even descend to the frequency of consciousness where those thoughts dwell. Okay?
For me, we are all karmically connected. We have incarnated and had issues with each other since the very beginning. And what the Hawaiians did about this is they have a saying that you should, every morning, get up and say, "I'm sorry, forgive me, I love you, thank you." The reason being is that me and you have a karmic connection. In order for us to not have this connection anymore, where we can go on to be ourselves, because I have to forgive you and you have to forgive me. But then your forgiveness is on you. I have to ask for forgiveness. Okay? And it's just like everybody here. The people we're most karmically connected to is our families. These are the ones you're going to have the most trouble with. Oh yeah, in your life, is that you're going to have to deal with it. And I find it like, me and my wife, we've been married for 50 years, and I've been so grateful that here in the last few months, I've learned that when I wake up in the morning, I say, I'm sorry, out loud, whatever, or not, forgive me, you know, because technically I don't want to be karmically connected to anyone.
You just certainly don't want to
No.
be karmically connected to her,
Well,
right?
no, it's okay. I mean, she is who she is, and I am who I am, and we're all individuals. But without each other karmically forgiving each other, we're always going to have to sit in the same room and deal with the same issues over and over again.
So energetically, Ray and I have really practiced a lot. Having a partner here to if you can't see it and someone else can, and they are able to tell you, get your head right, you know, and even that shock of like, how could I be wrong? Jolts you enough to maybe slow down and take a step back and look at it more objectively, and you're like, oh my goodness.
Isn't he great?
And so finding partners or accountability buddies, you know, is a great way to help to help facilitate your spiritual growth and to help raise your baseline and say, hey, you're having a really down week, you're having a really down month. Like let's work on some affirmations. Let's raise each other up. Let's do these things. Now, what's important, like you said, after 50 years of marriage and stuff, not being karmically connected or not being bonded in a way, because maintaining your own individuality and not becoming codependent on a relationship like that. So Ray and I do a lot. So I visualize it. I visualize it very 3D, where we're actually orbiting around each other in time, and just like new relationships, you know, a new relationship happens, and you want to be around each other all the time. Yay, we love each other, and it's literally 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're orbiting really tightly. You are orbiting really quickly, and you're generating a lot of heat, passion, right? That's where burnout happens. So you have to be careful and mindful of your application and your expenditure of energy in new relationships like that. And at the same time, as someone drifts apart, we use this language all the time. And when couples or friends or whoever that are all within each other's orbit, they drift apart and start to fall apart, it's because their gravity is no longer, they're not trying to fly together. They're not trying to live together. And so understanding that we will come closer and drift, and come closer and drift, and knowing that we're both kind of in charge of our own flight patterns, or our own orbital dynamics. Yes. Having a conscious and aware partner is one of the most important things, because very, very Celestine is, you can't, if one person is not aware, conscious, whole, if one person is trying to take the other's energy, it will be disruptive to the process. It will be disruptive to your own orbit, and someone will end up getting hurt. And two not whole people finding each other and glomming onto each other because they're trying to fill their own holes with another person who is also trying to fill their own holes creates a codependent relationship where two people are trying to be one whole, and that can't work either, because eventually someone's going to take control, and then it's a blow up, because someone's either going to get absorbed or they're going to realize that we have to split, and it's going to be a rocket in the other direction as the energy builds. So only two wholes can make a unit, can make a Merkaba. Beautiful.
Sorry.
Well, Merkaba's another day. Okay, so that is a lot of it. I'd love to discuss if someone read something that resonates with them, I'd love to talk about more of that. The page 4, really the choosing. I like a lot of these. I'm not, as you can see, there was no agenda. Oh, on page 1, haha, and they'll make everyone turn the pages again. Look what I can do. That is seeing it. If I was going to get anything about what, if people were waiting on me, raise your hand, throw stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't in a hurry. I was just going to say, the second point to my story earlier was a story from when my daughter was about 3. I was still with my ex-wife. I was sitting and relaxing on one of my days off, and as a disclaimer, I'm more of a free-range parent. She's the micromanager. So I'm just sitting there, and my daughter said she was coloring and doing stickers, and I was just letting her do her thing, and I'm just sitting there not thinking about it. And my ex-wife comes home from work and goes into the bathroom and comes out and starts freaking out at me. And I'm like, what happened? She said she was coloring and doing stickers. I'm sure it's fine. And I go in the bathroom, and she's taken all of her pads, and she put them up on the wall like a mural. And then she had taken crayons and done different pictures on like each one. And I was like, that's amazing. That's awesome. Why are you mad about that? Because now I have to go buy new pads. You know, like complete perspective, and like what she was mad about. And I was just like, look how creative she is. She's only 3. That's awesome. You know, like, and differences between the micromanager and the free range.
Two people looking at the same experience and taking something completely different from it. Positivity or frustration. And so every experience in reality, shared or individualized, you have that same option. Being able to see the same perspective with someone is like that's the unity principles, right? Being able to I see you, you see me type of stuff.
So, and in my example was, then I just asked my daughter, it's like, why? And then, why did you do that? And then she explained it, and I go, oh, okay.
That makes sense. Okay. So I'm as done as I need to be right now today. I will talk about all of this stuff. We can use any of this as a foundation, as a jumping off point. The very last one is the kind of the most important. If I was going to tell all of you, if you were to ask Jesus whether he was the Christ and whether he was perfect, what would he say? No. Why would he say no? I think he would say the only way you would be able to be perfect is to know that you are perfect. You have to know it. The same way Michael Jordan, being the very best basketball player of all time, the GOAT, you know, if you ask him if he was the very best of all time, he will say yes. He had to, because you can't be the best in the world at something without knowing to the very essence of your being that you are the best. I have to know that I am capable of anything in order to be capable of anything. That's the only step. It's the only, if you can know, not think, not pretend, not whatever, but if you know and you resonate with and where you are capable, then you are capable. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And whoever needs to hear that and whoever needs to change that, don't think, yeah. Oh. Yeah, so, yeah.
Was first.
Yeah, I think that comes out as confidence rather than arrogance. And there's a big difference. If you have the confidence and the knowing, you're not arrogant.
Right, it's just the truth.
Yeah.
It's an accurate perception of reality. An objective. You know, you can tell yourself lies. So beware the trap. But yeah.
And I think that's a good example too, because whether it's Michael Jordan or whoever, one of the things that when he knew that, it was also a call to action.
Mm-hmm. You have to be.
To say, okay, if I'm going to be the best, that means I'm going to outwork everybody else. I'm going to be stronger, faster, jump higher, because he was, you know, not the tallest, not the, you know, he was not even first string in college those first few years,
Driven.
yes, he was driven, and in my own experience, in terms of doing some kind of health healing kinds of stuff, when I notice, sometimes it's the awareness thing, so you get this feedback, this contrast, this, this tightness in this part of my body. So, so it's a call to action. Is this, okay, so what do I do when I do this? You know, when you're angry, you do the breathing thing. You know, if I'm tight, okay, well, I'm going to do the stretching, because it always works, and once you learn what it is that okay, this is what I need to do, that's what I'm doing from listening, whatever it is, whether it's, if it's, financially, is well, spend less than what you take in. If it's, whatever it is, you refine that balance.
So the first step in your consciousness is taking dominion over your physical form. You have to control if you can't control your body, you're not going to be able to control your mind. That's literally, these are the stair steps. Being able to sit with yourself calmly. Has anyone, you have to learn to speak the language of the body. You have to learn to integrate all three parts of your Trinity. And so being able to speak the language of your body is going to be a step, gaining mastery over your physical form. Now, and then whenever just like started shaking, got so energetic, sitting randomly that they're just something's happening. Very, very. You call it. Some people might call it anxiety, but really it's just like an energetic wave. That's something that occurs in our life fairly frequently. Is like what's going on, because like there's no discernible reason for me to be so amped up right now, and then that's generally because something is happening, and you're picking up energetically that if you ignore your body, then you're not going to learn the lessons, and you're not going to learn what it's seeing, and you're not going to be able to talk to it. You're not going to be able to live with it. You have to integrate and trust what your body is telling you. Because it is yours, and you love it and it loves you, and before you then move to your own mental patterns, your thought consciousness patterns, which you will then, if you can't control your body, you can't really trust what your mind's saying. And then once you've got through the body part, the physical part, you can get into the mental part and start training your thought patterns so that you can trust everything that goes through your head. And then we move on to spirit, and you don't really have to learn to trust that. Yeah.
Well, this is kind of backing up a little bit when you mentioned perfect. I don't think we were designed to be here and be perfect. According to Abraham Hicks, we came here to explore contrasting experiences and expand the universe by coming to a new thought about them. And if we try and hold ourselves to some, I'm not perfect yet, I'm so screwed up, that's not going to help at all. That's just going to buy into the other baloney that we're hoping to leave behind.
Perfect is source. Perfect is static, not static as in there is no change. Because with change comes imperfection, with change comes fractalization, complexifying thought. And so there can't be perfect other than the source that we all come from and aspire to.
And that's a great definition. I love that. And I think, I do believe that Jesus did come into that awareness that he was the Christ. But what I love about Jesus and his journey is that, he did get angry. He got frustrated with his disciples. He wept. He, on the cross, if the whole story is what the story is.
Of course.
He'd like, take this cup from me. And that just helps me to know that even in this journey of really desiring to live more from that Christ consciousness, that sometimes I'm gonna get angry, and I love like these ideas on how we can come back to center. Having a mantra, having something that brings us back to that. I just wanted to say something real quick. It was just kind of comical when you were saying, to do the I'm sorry, please forgive me. And when Paul and I got together, one of the things he said to me early on was, I'm sorry, I'm a man. And I don't know if you've seen, and he told me about like what would it come from?
Oh, from the Red Green Show.
The Red Green Show, if you've ever seen that.
Keep your stick on the ice.
And it was so comical to me because I'm like, what? And then he told me about it, and then like throughout our relationship, like toilet seats up or something, I'm sorry, I'm a man. So just had to add that little funny thing. But thank you.
Can I say something really quick? Is it the
Me first.
fact is,
I don't have to wait for Mike, but also who's going to his hand up for a while. The trap here.
I know every one of
You
you.
got 3 minutes.
I've done some kind of harm to somebody here.
So you say 3
everybody
minutes?
The trap is
So all I can say to you is I'm sorry.
thinking that
Forgive me.
you need
I love
something.
you. Thank you.
The mantras go
Good
away.
night.
The affirmations go away. Because if you think you have to rely on something, or the drugs, right? If you take drugs to maintain a level of consciousness that you like, thinking that you need the drugs is a trap. Thinking that you need the affirmations is a trap. You will build a muscle of you use the mantras and the affirmations to basically rewrite your neural pathways to be able to live there easier than your old pathways.
Yes.
But you don't need the tool that you used before, right? And if you never see another affirmation and you never tell yourself a mantra again, you can still you've lost nothing. Yeah, you've actually gotten better. Unconscious competence.
Okay, I'm going to try to do my last 3 points in like 60 seconds or less. First would be Jesus fell asleep in the storm at the helm because he was confident in being the tool for his Father. And another point in John when he's arguing with the, forgive me, I'm not a priest, so I can't think of the word, but the other Mennonites from the Jewish temple. And he said, it's not that I'm perfect, it's that I believe I'm doing what my Father told me to do. He was humble even then. It wasn't about perfection or being the best person he could be. It was about being the best tool he could be for the Father.
Doing your best.
And the third thought is, in my teaching, it was not about vocalization or words, because words don't work for me for certain reasons. And it was more imaging pathways, right?
Cool.
So you design a room in your head to separate yourself from all the outside words and influences, and then divide yourself down from that room.
Right.
And that was the gentleman that taught me that meditation. He called it more will-based. Will was prior to the use of words.
Yes, 100% will was before words. There was. Yeah. Anyway, love that. And what is the reality that you create for yourself is right for you. Your experiential reality is your own, and so direct it in the manner that you want, because you can.
Yes. Use your will.
Use your will.
Okay, I'm the last one. I have the final word here. So,
Lay it on.
you're talking about perfection. It just made me, if you use the sports analogy, with Michael Jordan, and he was saying he was the best.
Can you put the microphone up there?
Oh, okay, sorry. And so I've been watching the U.S. Open, been watching tennis more recently than I have in my life, actually, but So there's this guy that's considered the #1 tennis player in the world coming up, and his name is Carlos Alcaraz. He's from Spain. Young guy, 20 years old, just knockout player. And so semifinals come, and there's this guy named Medvedev, who's from Russia. Older guy, a little bit past his prime, and he has to play the #1 player in the world. And he goes, oh, in order to beat this guy, I've got to do 11 out of 10. You know, he's got to be more than 100%. He's got to be 110%. So this is a good analogy for perfection. Okay, it's like it's a choice. We do have a choice on if we want to improve, if we want to be better than what we consider to be perfect. In tennis, I don't know if you know you have two chances to make serve, okay? And so everybody on the first, they give it their all, and you know, the percentage is not good, and you're usually not gonna make it in, but if you make it in, it's like flipping phenomenal, you know, and that serve is going 150 miles an hour, and nobody can return it. So, what does Medvedev do? He does first serves every serve. And he beats Carlos Alcaraz.
Woo!
And so he goes, I not only had to be 10 of 10, I had to be 11 of 10. I had to be 12 of 10.
Sounds like courage.
It was like,
First serve, every serve.
I can be better than what my best is. And I think that's, to me, that's a good analogy of myself. I can be better. We can always be better.
Yep.
And that's how we grow.
So you know, we're done. We got announcements. For this, if you, I would love if you take anything with you and try to apply it this week, and we can even notes on anything. There's like, hey, this was really neat, but like, what about X or Y on some of this stuff? I would love to hear it next week and say, hey, I actually tried to do this and had this success or this failure.
Thank you.
All right. Just a reminder, James is going to pass the basket around, and this is an opportunity for us to circulate some financial abundance into this ministry and show our appreciation for the different programs and partnerships that we have that all help us all on our spiritual path. So if you feel so inclined, please put some financial abundance in that basket.
And if you're watching online, you can give at www.unityofspringfield.org.
All right, so World Day of Prayer is this week on Thursday, the 14th. The sanctuary will be open from 10 to 4 for anyone who would like to come in and pray. As always, Silent Sunrise is Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. The men's group is meeting on the second and fourth Thursdays each month. The next meeting is this Thursday at 10 a.m. Each session is independent of the previous, so feel free to join at any time. Diversity Game Night will be mini golf on September 15th. It's 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. The location is Getaway Golf, and that is on East Sunshine. It says, come put your way to a fun-filled evening with your Unity family. So on September 16th, we're going to do our annual cornhole and karaoke event from 3 to 7. It is $20 a team to register to play in the cornhole tournament. You can do that on our website or in person. At the office, there's a sign-up sheet out in the foyer. Karaoke is free to all, and anyone is welcome to come and enjoy watching others play in the tournament, just sitting around talking, eating some good food. We would love to see you there. Next Sunday, the New Thought World Religion class will be a continuation of this discussion with Greg. So part 2 of practical techniques for maintaining Christ consciousness. Don't forget the Elegant Fall Dinner is September 22nd from 6 to 8. Reservations are either $25 or $30 depending on what types of drinks you choose, or you can reserve a table of 8 for $200. You can make your reservation on the website or in the foyer after service, or by calling the office. We are holding reservations open through next Sunday, the 17th, but no reservations will be taken after that date. So you're on a time limit. Get it in there before next Sunday. The next Art and Affirmations workshop is on September 23rd at 6 p.m. and will focus on creating strong composition and compare this with how we use Unity principles and affirmations to compose ourselves. On September 24th, 6 to 7:30, Brian Hooper will be facilitating a workshop called The Consciousness of Health and Healing, Understanding the Connections Between Our Thoughts, Feelings, and Physical Health. Those who attend will explore the connections between certain thoughts and the health of specific parts of the body. So that's a new thing in our announcements this week. That's September 24th. Daniel Namod will be here on September 30th at 7 p.m. Tickets are $20, and you can purchase them at the office. You will not be disappointed if you come to
Or online.
Yeah.
You can.
Oh, purchase tickets online as well, yes, on the website. Daniel, his music is phenomenal. Daniel live is even better. So please come to that. We are gearing up for our fall yard sale, so please bring donations to the pod when the church hours are open. So it's Monday through Thursday, 10 to 4. Or on Sundays when we're all here, start clearing out that clutter and bring it so it can go find its new home. For our September and October outreach, we're collecting donations for the Crisis Cold Weather Shelter. There's a different item each week for 8 weeks. You can drop off the items during church hours, or for those who don't enjoy shopping, go to our website, click on the shelter tab, and there you can find a link to an Amazon wish list that has those 8 items ready to ship. All you gotta do is click the button, hit pay, and it will send a box to the church with all 8 items in it, and then you will be entered in that drawing for $100. Whew, that's the announcements. We've got so much going on around here. You gotta keep your eyes open, your ears open for all the different things. And we have just about every day of the week. You can find something here at Unity of Springfield to be doing. So thank you all, and we will be complete for our class this morning. Those in person, if you want to start walking